The light of dusk enters through the window of Steph's office at angles that create long shadows on the white walls. It is an ordinary Tuesday. He should not be here, should be at practice, but his aching shin pulled him from the court earlier. Physical pain is easy. Physical pain has medicine, has ice, has a physical therapist. The pain that comes after, however, no one prepares you for. Steph sits at the imported mahogany desk and opens the laptop. He wants to review the videos from the previous game, wants to see where he made the mistake, wants to study how the defenders were positioned. There is an open tab that is not his. Isha's Gmail. He should close it, should respect her privacy, knows this, learned this from the beginning of the relationship. But there is something in his name that makes him pause. A conversation that begins with, "How are you processing this?" from an unknown number. A prefix he does not recognize. He clicks. The first message dates from 10 years ago. Exactly 10 years. Not one day more, not one day less. Steph's heart has not accelerated yet, is still in normal time, still believes there is a simple explanation for everything, that there is context he is missing. But the words do not leave his mind. "I still have not told him" appears 7 times in different contexts, in different messages over the course of months. He would not know how to react. If he knew, it would change how he sees me. If he knew the truth about what happened, it would change everything between us. Then, the line that makes him stop breathing. "I already ate at the clinic today. The therapist said, this is progress." Clinic. The word does not leave his mind. Steph reads again, then a third time, as if repeated reading could reveal something different from what is already written. The next messages reveal fragments that together create a mosaic he does not recognize. Clinical case numbers. Dosage recommendations, which suggests medications, which suggests diagnosis. He says, "I am improving, but I still see that face when I wake up at dawn." The word "still" appears often. Steph reads obsessively, like a man searching for something he knows he will not find, but cannot stop searching for. One last message, the most recent, from only 3 months ago. 10 years, and I am still afraid to tell the truth. When the office door opens, Isha is holding a cup of tea. She is always holding something when she enters rooms where he is. It is as if she needs to have something to do with her hands, something to occupy physical space that her mind might be nervous about occupying. Her clothing is the same uniform as always. Well-fitted gray pants, white blouse that she put on this morning in the same closet that Steph shares. Hair pulled back in a ponytail. The smile that she automatically activates when she enters any room where Steph is, like a learned reflex, like an operating system that runs without need for conscious command. "Honey, you came back early," she says. Her voice is cheerful, is genuine, or at least seems to be, or maybe he never really knew the difference. But when she sees the open laptop, when her eyes follow his line of sight and see the messages still open on the screen, when she realizes what he has discovered, her entire operating system collapses. The cup of tea escapes from her hands as if it had transformed into something too hot to hold. She tries to catch it by reflex, but her fingers do not respond with the precision they have always responded to in all things. The porcelain breaks on the wooden floor in pieces that seem infinite. "Steph, He does not let her finish. Not because he wants to be cruel, only because he needs to say the words before they suffocate him. 10 years. 2 words. Simple. Contain everything. Contain the illusion of a transparent marriage. Contain the illusion that he knew every detail of her life, contained the realization that he was lying next to a complete woman he never really knew. When he says this, when these two words leave his mouth, something fundamental changes in the house. It is as if the emotional structure of their life had begun to crumble in slow motion. Riley, his daughter, who was in the room next door doing homework for school, falls silent. Even the sounds of the street outside seem to diminish, as if the entire universe were awaiting the next move, the next breath, the next word. Isha's hands are trembling now. It is not a small and imperceptible tremor. It is a visible tremor, the kind you can see traveling through the entire structure of her arms and down to her fingers, the kind that demonstrates an entire nervous system out of control. She tries to hold them together, as if she could contain it through her own will, but the tremor does not obey will. The tremor is its own system. Clinic. Therapist. I still see that face when I wake up, Steph reads aloud, pronouncing each word with the perfect clarity he would use at a press conference, that voice that is public and controlled. Isha, what face? What clinic? For how long? She sits on the edge of the sofa, does not sit completely, as if allowing her entire body to touch the cushions would be a form of surrender she is not ready to make. Only the touch of fingers on the cushions, as if she might jump at any moment. Her body is in total tension, muscle fiber by muscle fiber in contraction. Her eyes are fixed on a point on the wall that does not exist, somewhere that only she can see. There was a man, she begins. Her voice is small, so small that Steph has to lean forward to hear it completely. When I was 16 years old, at my mother's house, he was a close relative, an uncle. But it will not sound like it should sound when I say this. No one would have believed at the time if I had told. My own mother took 2 days to believe when Lorraine finally encouraged me to tell. I myself took months to believe. Steph feels the air leave his body. Not dramatically, like in movies. It just leaves, leaving only the vacuum. And you kept this for 10 years? The question is redundant. He read the messages, knows the answer. I kept it because you were here, she responds, and there is something in her voice that is pure desperation. You were here with me every night, every damn night. You were here, and that meant I was safe. It meant that someone I loved could be close, and I did not panic. It meant I was beginning to be normal again. But if I had shared that, if I had brought that weight into our life together, that trauma, that disgust I felt with myself, it would have changed how you see me. I knew it would have changed. You would have seen me differently. It would have changed everything between us. Steph sits in a chair. His mind is trying to process this, but cannot process fast enough. Isha went to a clinic, regularly, monthly, maybe weekly, for 120 months, and he never knew, never even suspected. He was here, every night, lying next to her, breathing when she breathed, touching her skin. But apparently, being here physically meant absolutely nothing. You lied, he says. It is not a question. It is a statement. I protected, she responds. And there is something in these words that is truth. Truth so deep it hurts, physically and psychologically. I protected you from the weight. I protected our children from the knowledge that their mother carries this, that their mother survived something that could have destroyed them if they had understood completely. I protected our life from what it could be, if you knew I was damaged in that way. Steph stands up. He does not know where he is going. He just leaves the office like an automaton. Passes by Riley in the hallway of the house, The girl looks at him with eyes that see much more than a child should see. He tries to smile at her, but the smile does not work correctly. He keeps walking, goes up to the room he and Isha shared for 10 years, that room where he believed he knew her completely. Locks the door with a precision he does not feel. Lies down on the bed they both shared, in those sheets that smell like both of them, and stays awake the entire night, completely awake, looking at the ceiling, while his hands experience the same tremor he saw in Isha's hands. The following days are like a series of frames that do not connect completely. Steph and Isha communicate through surfaces, through phrases that do not require response, through a language of pure survival. Dinner is ready. The children need to be taken to school. The credit card bill arrived. No one responds properly. The phrases simply exist in the air between them like their own entities, objects that float without need for reception. On the second night, Steph sleeps in the guest room. It is not a dramatic decision. There is no discussion about it. There is no confrontation. He simply cannot lie down next to her. His entire body refuses. It is like a primitive reflex. It is as if his muscles understand something that his brain is still stuck trying to process. That her body, that body he touched thousands of times, that he knows in every detail, kept a secret so deep, so fundamental, that every previous touch was, somehow, a physical lie. Riley perceives everything. Children always perceive. They have an antenna for tension that detects minimal changes in the air. On the third day, she asks why Daddy is sleeping in the other room. Why Mommy's voice is different. Why no one is truly present, even when they are all in the same room. Steph does not know what to say. How do you explain to a child that the people she loves are silently dissolving? Aisha tries to answer, but her voice breaks in the middle of the first syllable. She leaves the room. Riley draws a house that day. 2 faceless figures. A closed door right in the middle of them, separating one side from the other. On the 5th day, Steph calls a therapist. Not because he believes he can love his wife again. Not because he believes the marriage can be saved. Simply to discover if he is still who he believed he was. To discover if being here, physically present, night after night, meant something, if emotionally he was a ghost, a specter who slept next to a woman while she carried worlds he never knew existed. Jordan Ellis works in an office on the 15th floor of a building in San Francisco that has windows that extend from one side of the horizon to the other. Natural light that is not filtered. When Steph enters the office for the first time, alone, without Aisha, he feels like an athlete in a clinical environment, like a body that has been diagnosed as having fractures that are not visible on X-rays. You discovered that your wife kept a significant trauma for an entire decade, Jordan summarizes after Steph tells the story in a disconnected way, jumping from one point to another. Jordan is a man in his early 50s, hair beginning to gray on the sides, with a presence that suggests he has heard stories that would break most people, and yet continues believing that people have reason, that human motivations are fundamentally understandable. She lied, Steph says, and it is the second time he has said this in 5 consecutive days. He is beginning to believe the sentence as absolute truth. She lied to me for a decade. She protected herself, Jordan responds with a voice so calm that Steph wants to scream. What is the difference from your point of view? Steph wants a simple and direct answer. Wants Jordan to say that Aisha betrayed his fundamental trust, and that therefore Steph has universal right to be furious, that his anger is justified, that he should leave. But Jordan does not say any of that. Jordan only places his hands together, in a non-threatening way, and waits. "If she had told me, I could have helped," Steph finally says, as if this were a truth he believed completely until 5 seconds ago. "I could have taken her to therapy. I could have given her the necessary support." "Would you have?" Jordan asks, and there is a gentleness in how he asks the question. "Or would you have changed how you see her? Because, from what you told me, she believed so. And 10 years of therapeutic treatment suggest she was coping, was processing, was healing herself. Maybe the real question is not that she lied. Maybe it is that you were here physically, but emotionally, you were not. Present enough for her to believe it was safe to let you into that vulnerable space." The words arrive like a direct punch to the chest. Steph literally feels the air leave his lungs, his heart stopping for an entire beat. "You are here. You are here every night," Jordan continues with the same calm voice. "You sleep next to her. You wake up when she wakes up. But being here physically is not the same as being emotionally present. Physical presence is inertia. Emotional presence is choice. And there is a profound difference between the two." In the following week, when Isha comes to the office for the first time, she sits so distant from Steph that they seem to be in different buildings. Their physical proximity is so much that it could be measured in continents. Her hands continue trembling, that tremor that now Steph understands to be the physical manifestation of a decade of secrecy. She brings a tissue, twists it during the entire session, transforming the small piece of cotton into an object that seems to be suffering along with her. "He was intoxicated," she begins, and her voice is smaller than Steph has ever heard. So small, it is almost a whisper. "He was drunk in a way that made everything in his face caricatured. I was 16 years old. He was 34. Lorraine tried to protect me, but he entered my room. He put his hand—" She paused, her entire body contracted, as if enduring physical pain. I cannot say the rest." Steph feels his entire body become rigid, as if being frozen from the inside out. It is not sadness for what Isha went through, not yet, not completely. It is hatred, pure hatred, without dilution, for someone he never met personally, but whose actions created waves that are still affecting his wife's life a decade and a half later. It is hatred he feels in his fingers, in his jaw, in the empty space between his bones. "You do not need to say the rest," Jordan responds, with a softness Steph did not know existed. "The rest is between you and your therapist. But what you can say here, in this space, is how long this affected you, how long you carried this." 10 years, Aisha whispers. 10 years, Jordan repeats. "While this man," he points to Steph, "was here, every night, and you could not tell." Aisha shakes her head. The tears begin to fall, not in small drops, but in constant flow that she no longer tries to contain. "No one knew," she says. "My mother knew after, because Lorraine insisted, but no one else. Buried it. I put everything in a box so small that I could pretend it did not exist. And while I pretended, I was here with you, waking up with you, living a life that was real in every aspect except for the fact that I was lying." "You were protecting yourself," Steph says. It is the first thing he has said directly to her in a week. "I was protecting myself," she agrees, "but while doing so, I was also protecting you from having to carry this. Was protecting our children from knowing their mother was hurt in that way. Was protecting our life from becoming that." In the following week, there is an additional meeting. Only Lorraine, Jordan, and Aisha. Without Steph. Steph sits in the waiting room reading magazines he does not absorb, while Aisha tells her sister about the 10 weeks of therapy, about the medications she took, but that Steph never saw, about the nights when she woke up screaming softly, but suffocated the scream with a pillow so he would not wake up. When Isha comes out of the session, her eyes are red, but there is something different in the way she stands. There is something as if a tiny part of the weight had been placed on the ground. "I am going to talk to you," she says to Steph when they arrive home, "but I need you to listen without trying to fix. Can you do that?" Steph nods. He can do that. She spends the night telling about the night Marcus entered her room, telling about how she screamed silently, telling about how Lorraine found her the next morning and how the family decided not to involve the police because it was complex, because he was a relative, because there are dynamics that Steph, as a man, would never have to navigate the way she navigated. "I was afraid you would see me differently," Aisha says. "Afraid you would think I had invited this, that I had provoked it. Afraid you would touch me differently after. So I did not tell. I went to therapy. I took my medications. I processed alone." Steph tries to offer a response, tries to say something that will comfort her, but there are no words. There are no phrases he can say that will make this not have happened. In the following week, Lorraine enters Steph's life more directly. He goes to her apartment alone. Isha cannot. Not yet. Jordan suggests that Steph needs to understand the origin on his own, that there is understanding that cannot be transmitted, only experienced. Lorraine opens the door, and Steph immediately sees Isha's genome in her face. Same bone, structure around the eyes, same smile she uses when she is nervous. But there is something much more tired in Lorraine. As if 10 years had passed differently for her, as if she had carried double the weight. Her own anger at having witnessed what happened, plus the guilt of not having been able to completely protect her younger sister. "You finally know," Lorraine says when Steph enters. It is not a question. It is a statement of something she always knew would eventually happen. Isha thinks that if I had known at the time, it would change how I see her. Steph responds, because it seems important to start here, with Isha's central fear. "Would it change?" Lorraine asks back. "Yes. You would have seen someone who was hurt, someone who needed support, someone who should have received justice. But you would have seen all that through a filter of your own anger, your own helplessness at not being able to fix. Isha knew that. She knows you well enough to know you would have transformed into someone who was fighting against Marcus instead of being present for her." Lorraine takes him to the room Isha occupied when she was 16 years old. It is a small shrine frozen in time, like a museum room dedicated to a person who ceased to exist. There are posters of old bands Steph never heard on the wall. There is a mirror with stickers around the edge. There is a single bed covered with a comforter that someone should have cleaned years ago, but no one did. And there is a diary on the shelf. Not the diary Steph found, which is recent, which is about therapy and processing, but an older one, with a leather cover that was worn by young hands that constantly leafed through, looking for an exit point that never came. "Do you want to read?" Lorraine asks. Steph picks up the diary. It is heavy in a way it should not be, as if the feelings of an adolescent had added physical weight to the paper. He opens it, sees pages of adolescent handwriting that starts firm and then fades, blank pages where obviously something was written and then torn out, pages where she writes in a straight line, "I cannot," 3 times. Then, "No one can know." Then, "If I tell, He will have to go to jail, and Dad will have to know, and Mom will have to choose between her family. So, I do not tell. Then, nothing. Only blank pages. Dozens of them. As if writing truth were so dangerous that silence was the only safe place to live. Why did you not call the police? Steph asks. Knows the question is innocent in the way he is innocent, full of privilege he never had to question. Do you know who he is? Lorraine asks back. Steph waits. He is your grandmother's uncle. He is part of the family. If we told, it would be acknowledging that our own family had a monster inside it. It would be saying publicly that Isha was hurt in a way that the police would expect her to process through a system that is frequently cruel to women. Isha was afraid. She was afraid of being disbelieved. She was afraid of being blamed. I was afraid of all that too. And then the years passed, and he was never convicted. And Isha never processed through the official system. She processed through therapy, which is how she, apparently, needed to do it, alone. Steph feels something break inside him. Not anger. Not yet. Just understanding of how small the choice Aisha had was. Understanding that being here meant little if the entire world was conspiring for truths to remain buried forever. Does she still see him? Steph asks. Once or twice a year, at family gatherings. He ages. She ages. And he never mentioned her. She never confronted him. It is as if the incident had been deleted from both personal histories. As if it had never happened. But it happened. Lorraine sits on the floor, in that room that is a shrine of unresolved trauma, and Steph sits beside her. She loves you, you know, Lorraine says. She loves you more than anyone I have ever seen love someone. That is why the secret lasted so long. Because you were safety. You were proof that she could be close to someone without constantly being afraid. But she was still afraid, Steph responds, to tell me. Of you changing, Lorraine confirms. She was afraid of you seeing her differently. And you know, at the base of that, she was right. You changed when you found out. Not because she was hurt, but because you realized you were here, sleeping next to someone who was being tortured internally, and you did not see. You were not really present. These words arrive with a truth so pure Steph cannot argue them. Lorraine is right. He was here, but he was not. In the following week, there is a meeting in a coffee shop in a way no one planned, but everyone understood would be necessary. Steph, Aisha, Jordan, Lorraine, and Marcus. The Marcus who was intoxicated 15 years ago. The Marcus who entered a room and destroyed an adolescent. The Marcus who now is almost 50 years old and has white hair and seems broken by time and remorse. You mean to say she did not tell you? Marcus asks when he understands the situation. There is something in his voice that is genuinely surprised, as if his knowledge of what he did had remained in a vacuum, without ever knowing exactly what the impact was on the other side. She told now, Steph responds. His voice is firm because it needed to be. Marcus is silent for a long time. When he finally speaks again, his hands are open on the table. Not defensive, just open. I was a bad man that night. Maybe I still am. But that night I did something I cannot undo. I destroyed a child. And when she did not report me, when the family simply continued, part of me was relieved. The other part spent every day since then knowing I did not deserve relief. Steph does not know if he can forgive, knows only that understanding the origin of Aisha's silence means understanding that Marcus was not an abstract monster. He was a man who did something monstrous. And yes, two things can be true simultaneously. She went to therapy, Steph says. She went because she is strong, Marcus responds. She went because she is brave. She went because she is more heroic than anyone I know. If you knew what she overcame to have a normal life with you, you would realize you married someone extraordinary. And something in these words, when Marcus says them with all the sincerity of someone who is finally saying truth after carrying silence, breaks something in Steph. Not complete. Understanding. Just the beginning of understanding. Just the first crack of light in a room that had been dark for too long. The 6th week arrives. Steph sits on the living room sofa with Isha beside him. She is beside him, literally close, for the first time in weeks. Riley is on the other side, holding his hand. She is 10 years old, and he is about to say something that will change how she understands families for the rest of her life. Your mother kept a secret for 10 years, he begins. His voice is firm because he prepared this phrase hundreds of times in his head. Not because she did not trust me, but because something terrible happened to her when she was a child. Something no one should have to go through alone. And she was afraid that sharing that could damage our lives. Riley looks at her mother. Her face is a mixture of confusion and childish curiosity. Your father believed he was here for you, Steph continues. And I was. I am. But being here physically is not the same as being emotionally present. Being here is complicated. Being here means noticing when someone is suffering. Being here means creating space for truth to live. Your mother taught me this in the hardest way possible. When he finishes, Riley does not understand completely. 10-year-old children do not comprehend sexual traumas, or how protecting through silence can end up hurting. But she understands that her parents are vulnerable, and she hugs her mother. And then her father. And in that moment, the house breathes for the first time in weeks. 3 days later, Steph publishes a letter. Not on social media, where sensationalism becomes headlines. On his own website, where his words have weight because he frequently does not speak personally. The letter begins like this. For 10 years, I believed that being present meant being physically present. Sleeping next to someone. Waking up with them. Creating a life together. Sharing a room. Occupying the same space. But days ago, I discovered that the person I love most in the world carried a weight I was completely unaware she was carrying. And that broke me in a way nothing has ever broken me. Not because she kept a secret, because my physical presence was not enough for her to feel safe in revealing the truth. She went to therapy alone, month after month. While I slept beside her believing I knew her completely, while I thought my presence was enough, while I never even asked why she was so quiet some nights, why certain movies made her leave the room, why she sometimes woke up with her heart racing but pretended everything was fine. How many of you are here but are not emotionally present? How many women are carrying secrets because they do not trust that the men in their lives can understand? How many of you are sleeping next to someone who is transporting an entire world alone? What my wife did, keeping truth for protection, was not weakness. It was strength I did not know how to recognize, because I was too busy believing my body next to hers was enough. Was too busy believing that being here physically was the same as being here emotionally. I was wrong, completely wrong. And I am spending the rest of my life learning to be really here. The letter goes viral, not because it is sensational or dramatic, Because it is human in a way people rarely see from public men. Because it is truth, Steph's inbox fills with messages from couples who are finally having conversations they avoided. From women who are sharing secrets with the men in their lives for the first time. From men who are discovering that being present is work, is choice, is radical vulnerability. 1 week later, Steph announces the Presence Foundation. "We created a program," he says at a press conference, "that is smaller than his usual press conferences, but that feels like the most important one he has ever done." Jordan Ellis is beside him, and surprisingly, Lorraine is also there. A program that helps couples, especially those under public pressure, to develop real emotional presence. Not physical presence, not presence that is just being in the same room. True understanding, real emotional intimacy. The first scholarships go to couples who cannot afford therapy, to women processing sexual trauma, to families rebuilding trust after buried truths finally come to light. And there is something else Steph announces, something not even Aisha expected. 2 advisory positions at the foundation. 1. For Lorraine, because she understands the weight of having witnessed trauma. Another for Marcus, because recovery means that even those who commit errors can eventually serve truth, can spend the rest of their lives trying to fix what they broke. When Steph announces the name of the foundation, he pauses. There is silence in the auditorium, then applause. Not because it is beautiful, because it is honest. The Presence Foundation, for those learning to be really here. 6 months later, Steph and Isha are again in Jordan's office, not because there is crisis now, but because emotional presence is practice, not destination. It is something you cultivate. It is something you choose every day. "How are you?" Jordan asks. "I am here," Aisha responds. And when she says this, she holds Steph's hand. There is no tremor. There is only contact. Simple, real, present, true. Riley now draws a house with open doors. People who can pass through the entrance and exit freely, without fear of what they will find on the other side.